Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast. And this is a show where we talk about the Disney canon. And it's always fun when we have a new film from Walt Disney Animation Studios, one of their animated classics, as they like to call it, to talk about. And we do with the new film Strange World. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, all is well. Thank you. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I am excited to talk with you about this film. We have got a lot to unpack on this film. Holy smokes.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about. This is the 61st Disney animated classic. It's from director Don Hall, written by and co-directed by Qui Nguyen and produced by Roy Conley. And it is inspired by pulp magazine from the 1950s, which is an interesting approach. And it follows the Clade family as they go apart. They're exploring the world of Avalonia, the outer world, I guess,
Yes.
and follows this family. And going into this, what was your? I know you got to see clips
Yes.
at Animations Film.
Yes.
So what were you kind of going in? Were you nervous about it? How were you feeling?
Well, actually, I was looking forward to it. I got to hear Roy Conley talk about it for about an hour, and he showed some clips and a lot of concept art, and just gave some history of the production. And I was looking forward to it. I even the images I thought were all quite stunning that were shown, all that were either released or part of that presentation, released prior, or that presentation, that I saw. And then also, Roy Conley was really emphasizing the themes of like family legacy,
Mhm.
and talking about these three generations of men that were kind of central to the story. And of course, he didn't give anything away, about the plot or anything. But I was excited, but then also I've been just confused because, as you and I have talked about too, and I know we'll continue to talk about it on the podcast, but the marketing has been so questionable for this film, and so it was a combination of I was excited because I got to see some of this pre stuff from Roy Conley, and then also just like I don't know quite what to expect now
Yeah.
because this marketing has been really sucky.
I mean, it's so weird because Disney, from the practically the very beginning, if they didn't have faith in a movie, if they didn't like it, then they would just kind of put it out there, and which is so weird to me. And sometimes it would still sort of gain a cult following, or would still sort of leg out a over the year over the it would leg out a box office win somehow, something like Robin Hood, that
Yeah.
they didn't like because they used so much recycled animation, and or even 100 Dalmatians that Walt Disney didn't like, but did well because people liked it and didn't agree with him.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to me. I mean, my friends were telling me that they were in Disney World and there was not a single piece of marketing for Strange World in Disney World, which is just amazing.
You just kind of can't believe it. Yeah, it's just like you just wonder how much faith Disney had, and also clearly the Disney company is going through stuff right
Yes.
now,
Yes.
and I think the leading up to it, where you just wonder if some of these teams that are kind of bringing Disney down, were
Mhm.
responsible for the marketing, and like no wonder
Because
Chapek was
I mean, to
canned.
me, yeah, to me, it's crazy because if you think about it, like most of the marketing, certainly within their own properties and then on social media, is so cheap. I can understand not wanting to put out billboards and not doing Super Bowl ads or something like something very expensive. I can understand not wanting to do that on a film that you don't love, but like putting out a putting out a viral Twitter campaign, kind of thing. That's basically free. I
Yeah.
mean, in the world of marketing, it's free, super cheap. And so why you wouldn't at least do that is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, I felt like in a way I had a bit of a leg up because in the Roy Conley presentation, as I'll
Uh-huh.
probably keep referring to it as,
Yeah.
at animation as film, he introduces to these specific characters. So we got to meet Jaeger Clade, the initial guy, the explorer,
Mhm.
and then his son, Searcher Clade, right, voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal, and then Ethan Clade, basically his grandson, right? And so we got to be these three specific, and that was very much his focus. And so, but like the posters are those three men and like the dog, maybe that Splat character too, that little,
Yeah, so weird.
just like all like getting wrapped up in the tentacles of one of the creatures from the strange world. And you look at that poster, and I mean, and not necessarily that the poster has to explain stuff, but you're just like, what is this? And there's not like any like mystery or like, it doesn't like pull me in.
I
The
think
thing.
part of it is they were really it seems like they were really obsessed with the idea of this big reveal. And we'll talk about that more. But I wonder if they felt like if they advertise that they're going to give it away, they're going to give
Yeah.
away the big reveal, but the big reveal was completely obvious and stupid from the very beginning. So that was a very dumb
I
reason.
know. I agree, because yeah, that's a really good point. It just, and Roy Conley didn't give any of it away,
Yeah.
and but still, yeah, it's just like this. The big reveal was so ho hum
Mhm.
that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also surprised that they didn't have this in 3D, at least at the screening. I don't know if it is in 3D
It is
somewhere.
in 3D. I know, I
Okay.
know, and that's something that I don't know how many screenings there are, but I know it's in Real D 3D, and I think I saw like there was one or two screenings at a Cinemark, that was doing
Oh,
it, and, and
really?
and I don't know how many they're doing every day, and also since it's tanking so quickly, but it's still, at least probably through next Thursday. I'm thinking there might be a chance to still see it in 3D, but I wouldn't be surprised if this gets pulled from theaters pretty
Yeah, I
quickly.
mean, I would not be surprised at all if we have Strange World on Disney Plus by Christmas.
Oh, absolutely, no question.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Rach, and I wonder. I mean, you know, as we've seen, the box office is absolutely dreadful for this film. I can't remember the numbers. I just read them a few minutes ago,
Yeah,
but it's, I think, one of the poorest performing films from Walt Disney Animation Studios in a really long time.
ever. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe ever.
my
It's
goodness.
certainly the worst one. eh, I mean, since the Black Cauldron. I mean, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it seems
Yeah.
like it. Let me see. I'll look it up real quick.
Well, that's good of you to do that. Thank you, because I just, and I hope we can kind of try to at least
Okay.
unpack our opinions.
So,
Please.
yes. So, Strange World. I'm looking on Box Office Mojo. So, the grosses right now,
As of Saturday, right, of Thanksgiving weekend, when we're
mhm,
recording this.
are around $24 million for the extended Thanksgiving weekend.
Wow, that's really low.
Yeah. Let me see one other thing real quick.
When like Frozen 2 earned that like in its first 2 hours of release, probably, right?
So, Chicken Little, just in contrast, did 40 million
On its opening
opening
weekend.
weekend. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't remember if that opened up Thanksgiving weekend or not. I remember seeing it in
It,
theaters. I tried to
November
forget
4th,
it.
so just before.
Oh, okay.
And 27, 32. Yeah. Yeah. 40 million. So it's bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah. And
But actually Chicken Little was number 1 at the
yeah,
box
at
office
the box office.
opening weekend.
And I think that, I mean, there's so many there's so many factors going on, Rachel. I think too. Not that there's necessarily excuse, but hopefully again we'll kind of dissect some of the stuff. But the theaters just aren't that crowded. except
Yeah.
for like big tentpole movies. Like the last time I was in a full theater where every seat was filled was in was seeing Spider-Man No Way Home last.
You
No,
didn't put
no,
Top
no.
Gun Maverick?
Top Gun Maverick was almost full. Like when I
Mm,
saw it, I don't think the theater was completely full. Spider-Man, I swear, like even the front row,
yeah.
was was full. Like in the local,
Yeah.
the IMAX theater that I went to. What's the name of the Spider-Man movie? Am I calling it right?
No Way Home,
It is
right?
No Way Home, right?
Yeah.
Okay. it's it was the one I don't want to mess it up with the with that second one that I know was not great. But
Far From Home. That was Far
Far
From
From
Home.
Home.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
but
Exactly. Okay, anyway, I digress. But
but
anyway, but and people just aren't going to I just wonder too like how much people's streaming habits and
yeah.
expectations played into
I,
this.
I mean, it's true when you know that you can see it in just a few weeks,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been marketed well. The early buzz wasn't good. It got a horrible cinema score. It got the
Yeah.
worst cinema score ever since they've been tabulating it in the 90s.
Wow.
And I mean, they say a B, but for an animated film, that's a very low,
Oh, that's
very, very low,
low. Yeah.
very low. So, yeah, I mean, there are some horror films that get in the B's, but typically family films and animated films usually are in the A's.
Yeah.
And because that's the thing with the cinema scores, like most people when they go to see a film, they usually end up like enjoying it fine, so they answer
Mm-hmm.
the question. So it's pretty rare. Of course, you do have those movies that get like F cinema scores, like the Mother, Darren Aronofsky. got an F
Oh, interesting. You
on
got
their
an
cinema
F.
score. Yeah, that one got an F. There's actually a movie. The uh there's a what's it called? There's a movie called Lucky Numbers
Uh-huh.
that is a Nora Ephron film, but it's the only one that she directs that she didn't actually
That
write.
she didn't
So
write.
that's the key.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that bad.
Is that with John Travolta and with
Yes.
Lisa Kudrow? Isn't
Yes.
that okay? Yeah.
It got an F cinema score famously.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like it's not a great movie, but I don't think
It deserves
I wouldn't say it's one of like the all-time worst. And
interesting.
everybody has their flops. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if an animated film has ever gotten an F cinema score. Thankfully,
But clearly this B is
this one maybe
not.
Sausage Party. I'm not sure what that one
Yeah,
got.
Sausage Party. I think it seemed like
It
me
got
that
pretty low, I
did it
think,
get a B minus or something? I'm trying to
something like that.
remember.
Yeah, low,
Yeah, yeah.
low. But anyway, so it starts out with this pulp magazine 1950s aesthetic at the
Which was
beginning with
kind of my favorite part of the movie.
agreed. The 2D animation, and it's so funny you say that because I wrote in my notes. The beginning, you feel the pulp magazine aesthetic, and with the 2D animation, it's the best part of the film.
Yep.
Yes, and it's kind of got that old film reel style,
Yes.
like the beginning of Up.
Exactly. Kind of a
Hmm.
combination of the film reel style and with like comic book printing style, with this
Hmm.
with the
Yeah,
the pixelated or I don't know what necessarily called, but all the all the different dots and colors and whatnot. I loved it. I
yeah.
wanted to rewind it and watch it again. That portion and fun music. There's kind of that fun little song there, the Clades or whatever going
You're
on with
right.
and then Henry Jackman wrote. I thought that was
Yeah.
fun.
Presenting Jigger Clade, whose
Yes,
fears
exactly.
has no fear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
that was fun. And yeah, and it kind of gets you excited for what you're going to be seeing. And the animation throughout is beautiful.
The
There,
animation is gorgeous, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. I have issues with the world building itself, but as far as the
Yes.
movement and the colors and things like that are really nice.
Yeah. Really gorgeous. I mean,
Mhm.
just yeah, Disney clearly is just still does such amazing animation. And even though maybe we're getting a little tired of the kind of the 3D style, I still thought they brought a lot of beauty and depth to it. I loved the look of the film a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you see where animation is going with movies. This whole Spider-Verse hybrid 2D, 3D aesthetic is so stunning. I'm such a huge fan of it.
Yeah,
And
so entertaining, so
yeah,
wonderful to watch.
Mitchell's versus the Machines, Spider-Verse, this new Puss in Boots movie, which
Hmm.
I was telling my friends, I'm like, save your money and go see Puss in Boots
Yeah,
too, because it's so amazing. It looks so great. I love the bad guys as far as animation style. And so that's very exciting to me. And I would love to see Disney kind of expand a little
yeah,
bit
me
more
too.
from this sort of aesthetic, but it's still nice looking. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. And it was nice to see them like doing something different. They they hadn't done a they haven't done a male led film since Big Hero 6, right? Because Raya
Yeah,
and Kanto, Frozen 2. I guess Ralph Breaks the Internet is
yeah,
not.
Robert Internet. You know, Zootopia. I guess it is kind of male and female, given with
That's
Nick
true.
and Judy. But
Mhm.
yeah.
But that was nice, and I like that they tried to show a different kind of family than we've ever seen before, or since, certainly you have to go back to like Meet the Robinsons or something like that to have like such a kind of broken, messy family dynamic.
Hmm.
So that's nice, and all the voice acting is nice. I had no problems with any of the voice
Yeah,
acting.
me neither. I thought that the voice talent was solid.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
liked Henry Jackman's score. I thought it was a fun adventure score.
I thought his score was excellent too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My problem with the movie, I mean, there are a bunch of problems, but my biggest problem that would make me have it pretty low on my ranking and make me really not have much of a desire to watch it again is that I just grew really tired of all the fighting. And I just found the characters to be very unlikable and difficult to root for. And like from the very, very beginning, Jaeger Clade will not listen to his son at all, to Searcher. He's trying to tell him about this plant that he's found. He will not just stop just to listen for 5 seconds, and then Searcher is bad about doing that with Ethan, and they all just fight the whole time. Like I one of the best parts of the movie in this grand explorer movie is when they're all stuck in a closet. And you shouldn't say that. Like that shouldn't be the case, but it is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just found them it really unpleasant.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my biggest
I
problem.
and I don't fault for that because that's a real I guess the script is one of the things that's probably I think very problematic about this, and the fighting didn't necessarily bug me as much, but as you talk about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. That's really there was so much fighting going on. I guess I I was so intrigued by the three generation relationships that I guess I was letting some of that go as I was trying to figure out. I wonder how they're going to resolve this,
Mhm.
between these three generations, because both of these dads are flawed.
Yes.
It's in major ways,
Well, and
but then also in some ways they're really great. So anyway,
I was saying on Hallmark podcast there was a movie that they did this year that on Hallmarky's podcast that was very argumentative in tone, and I really disliked it. And for me personally, if you're gonna have characters like outright quarrel and fight, like the payoff needs to be there, and I need to feel it, and I need to be emotional, and
yeah,
like just feel it. And the payoff was not there for me with this, and so I just left kind of feeling, "Mm." And I'm just
yeah,
not like, I mean, I'm trying as I go through because there are other problems, and I'm having a hard time when I think about my ranking, having a hard time not having it in my bottom 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really that
What makes
just
it for you go in your bottom 10 too? I mean, what is it? Just really just the unlikable characters are so unlikable, and this,
yeah, the
is that
fighting. The
really
fighting is
the fighting?
like let me look at just once. Let me pull it up so I have it here. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. About my ranking, I would probably have it at like 55. I mean, I think I'd rather watch The Rescuers. I don't love that.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's great.
I would have it above The Black Cauldron, Saludos Amigos, Brother Bear, Chicken Little, Dinosaur, and Home on the Range. Because those are just
Those are, but yeah, but
so
still low.
annoying.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have it.
Anyway.
I have it. Well, I guess I can relate a little bit, but mine's not much higher. I'll just put it that way. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Or should I say now? I mean, since we're
Yeah,
talking about it, what would you
yeah.
recommend?
You can
So
say it
I
now.
have I have it at 47.
Yeah, it's not that much
Yeah,
higher
so
than
not
me.
not that much higher. No.
I mean, I would rather, because I have like Sword in the Stone at 51. I would rather watch Sword in the Stone than this.
See, I have it just right above. So I have it
Right
in
above,
between
yeah.
Wreck-It Ralph and Sword of the Stone because I don't really care for Sword of the Stone.
Oh, you have Wreck-It Ralph that low, huh?
Yeah, I don't like Wreck-It Ralph.
I mean, I don't like it,
I
but I have it at
love
41.
I like Ralph Breaks the Internet a lot.
Yeah, same.
As we discussed. But yeah.
I have Ralph Breaks the Internet at 31, which so
Yeah, I do
that's
too.
really
I have it at
interesting.
31 as well. Yeah, that's one of those where we're tied. Yeah.
Yes. But I don't know. I just didn't like the fact that so Jager Clade won't listen to Sun Searcher when he's sitting there. He's got this new discovery. You think that at the very least he would be interested in what's going on in this world and what his son is finding. And I mean, for 5 seconds to just stop and be like, okay, let's look at it. But no,
Yeah.
he can't do that. And he just continued barrels on forward. And then Searcher does the same thing to Ethan and doesn't listen to him throughout the course of the movie. And it's just makes it a frustrating experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
They find out that the Pando is losing its power. So they're trying to find out what's going on with the
Yeah.
Pando. We haven't
Pando is this
seen.
plant that Searcher Clade discovered when he was with his dad, Jaeger,
Yeah.
right? And then decided he was more interested in taking the plant back home rather than, continuing to follow his dad. And that's his dad disappears now then for 25
Mhm.
years.
But I'm a little bit confused because they talk about how he's like a farmer of this plant, and yet it's treated in the narrative as some kind of bacteria. So is he farming bacteria?
I don't know. I'm with you. And again, one of the problems, I don't think they give enough information about the Pando
Mm-hmm.
other than just, they have this
I'm
kind of
look.
idyllic life on the farm and they're growing all this stuff, which has completely in 25 years completely revolutionized this civilization,
Mhm.
right? That it powers their flying vehicles and
Yeah,
their
it makes them
cities
very.
and all this stuff and gives them electricity in their homes. And anyway,
Because you could think if it was a bacteria, that then they would start to have adverse effects, but they don't seem to
sooner,
be. Just the big reveal does.
yeah, yeah, sooner rather than later, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
after 25 years, they're just been humming along swimmingly, and then all of a sudden there are these problems.
But they get into this world. There's this spaceship and everything, and They get into the world. They find
And it's really like
Tigger.
like Journey to the Center of the Earth is kind of what it reminded me
Mhm.
of in a way, right? They're going underground to try to find the root,
Right, and you
truly the root cause,
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
they're helped by Callisto, that she
Yes.
shows up in the adventure,
Voiced by Lucy
um
Liu.
mhm, and there's this acid that they have to get through, which is a big tip to, like, what's happening, that there's this acid.
Stomach acid. I'm
And
just saying. Spoiler alert.
I mean, the minute that you saw that sort of bridge of basically red blood cells, you mean you knew. I knew.
They're
Did you
like
know?
in they're yeah, I was gonna say they are in some kind of living organism. I don't know what it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. It was so
but
obvious. So the idea that this was like in the way it's all set up in the third act is that this is like a huge reveal. Like when they see that eye, I think they wanted the audience to be like,
they're like, "Ah, no way. They're like, yeah, we kind of have like thought about this the whole time.
yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that did not work. And then they also have the dog Legend, which is a three-legged dog.
Yeah.
So that was cute.
He's cute. You know,
Hmm.
just one of the cute animal sidekicks in a Disney film, which are often, great. Legend was cute.
Yep. But then they have Splat. What do you think of Splat?
I wanted to like Splat more than I did. Uh, it's a pantomime character, and
Hmm.
clever design, and played for humor. And he helps it with the plot, and he helps rescue stuff, and whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of unsuccessful in a lot of ways because I also just thought, how does Splat know that that's that human how to respond in that way? This
Yeah.
these very human responses and different stuff. And again, I think I was overthinking a little bit, but I didn't love Splat. I
I
wanted
mean,
to like Splat more than I did.
it's true. If you think about their fantasy movies, there's always a character like this,
Yeah,
whether it's in Treasure Planet, the
yeah, he
blob.
reminded me a lot of somebody from
Yeah.
Treasure
And
Planet.
I was thinking, and this is interesting. I was thinking about the other day, I posted on Twitter that it's hard to think of a single sci-fi movie that has been successful from Disney. Like obviously Marvel and Star Wars. But you go and they've had so many flops. It's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, because like the black hole
The
flop,
Black
but also it was
Hole.
not a good film. But I mean, I have some sentimental attachment to
Uh-huh.
it, but it's not. I don't think it's a very good film.
Because even the original Tron wasn't successful. I found that
Right,
out.
right. Tron was total cult
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're counting Wally, I guess that's one.
I think Wall-E was probably the only one really
And
that
Lilo and Stitch was a
nailed it.
modest hit just because it was so cheap to make. I think it only cost 83 million to make. It made
Yeah,
like 280 something.
yeah.
And so but if it had been like this budget of 180, then it would have been a huge flop. But yeah, there's so few. I mean, you've got so many sci-fi flops from Disney, like Wrinkle in Time, John Carter, uh,
Oh yeah, and then more recently, well, I guess not necessarily remember, but Atlantis.
Atlantis, Artemis Fowl, like,
Yeah,
and I mean, a lot of these are terrible movies, so they deserve to be flops. But
right. So it's
it's just
yeah.
interesting that you would think that it just never occurred to me that they had such a hard time with sci-fi.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Disney sci-fi just can't nail it, and clearly this was not going to.
Tomorrowland, another flop.
Oh, Tomorrowland. Yeah, that was rotten. Yeah,
So it's kind of interesting
it
how
is.
that seems to be the case.
You know, I want to be sensitive about this, Rachel, but I know just in the interesting conversations I've had because I've been hanging out with a lot of family this weekend,
Hmm.
and my family is all over the map as far as where they are politically, and
Hmm.
also just how they view things in the world, and that makes it interesting, right?
Right,
And
right.
thankfully, we didn't have any big arguments. Or anything. Everybody's still talking to each other.
Hmm.
Well, everybody left with all smiles, but somebody brought up the topic of woke, quote unquote woke Disney,
Mm-hmm.
and this film, I think, is probably very representative of what that group talks about. I don't necessarily like to view it in those terms,
No,
but
and I mean, yeah, I agree. I actually think that this did representation well. It just had it as part of the story. It was actually like meaningful to the story. It wasn't just tacked on for like 30 seconds like some of these other supposed representation that Disney has done. To me, that's personally, to me, that is a lot more offensive than when people are just being kind of, in my opinion, patronized and given like
Mhm.
the tiniest bit of diversity. I at least this in this case, it was like a meaningful relationship, and it was part of his character, and it was well developed, and it, and so I actually really appreciated that, and I don't think that it's done in like a preachy way. It's just part of his character. They never take like a second to be like, hey, everybody, here's how you should be feeling about this. And here's the lesson that we should, none of that. It's just who he is.
Yeah,
That's my opinion, at
yeah.
least.
No, and I thought really the same thing, that everything was handled not with like we're hitting you over the head with this, but I think that again, some of the things that were brought up with the family discussions is that they're even including additional stuff that that's making it political.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or that's making it like we are forcing our point of view on your family. And I wondered if that is also part of some of the box office issues, but I don't know because I don't know how much that's being talked about or was even a
Mhm.
concern with people. That I don't know.
It's hard to know. I mean, you did have people like Ben Shapiro and things like that, like making
Yeah,
videos
right.
and they, and
Who,
so I'm
who
sure
have
that,
been vocal about anything that Disney does,
yeah,
like
and
remotely, like yeah.
I'm sure that that didn't help, but I think that, how do I say this? I think that we have lots of different people that deserve and should see themselves on screen.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's forcing their views on you to have, I'm not you, but people complaining
Generally, yeah.
that I don't think it's forcing their views on to audience members to have a character that is who they are, because because we have gay people exist, they are here. Like, I mean, people need to deal with it. um,
Yeah.
and I think they deserve to have their stories on screen. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
The strengths of the film was the representation and the way they handled the relationship, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I don't think it was woke. I don't think it was trying to proselytize any type of lifestyle or anything political. I don't think it was trying to proselytize any particular political ideology. It's just this character and is who he is. But anyway, I think it will be used as a cheap ammunition against this film, when in reality, I think the problems are way beyond this.
You know what? Yeah, Rachel, I thought one of the bigger problems of this too was its environmental message, because
Yeah, because
I
I
felt
mean,
if anything was heavy-handed, it was their environmental
oh yeah,
stuff.
oh yeah,
Like, because we find out that Pando, even though it's powered their civilization and made them be able to do all this stuff, it's killing their
hmm their
it's
turtle
killing their
planet.
world. This ecosystem that they live in, and and of course, I think absolutely important. We care for the earth and that we live on. That's so important. But I don't know. To me, that seems like to be the issue that they were really trying to drive home. But I didn't feel like it was really
Yeah.
done well. I think about Zootopia, that handled the topic of basically
hmm
bigotry in such a deft way
Yeah.
that was so well done,
Well, and
and so thought provoking, and not like
yeah.
hitting you over the head.
Well, and it was an outright allegory, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're telling a Mother Goose kind of story
Mm-hmm.
that have like a specific lesson that's supposed to be learned in an allegory, usually with animal characters and like the Ugly Duckling or something like that. And that's the way Zootopia was, at least to me. And then it
Yes.
had sort of humor and buddy cop formula antics and things like that to kind of
Yeah.
puff it out.
To make it,
hmm
entertaining and fun.
Where
Yeah.
this movie, a lot of the environmental stuff didn't really even make all that much sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. I was gonna say it really.
Uh-huh. And
But
I mean, I was thinking as a comparison, as far as LGBTQ representation, if you think about Mitchell's versus the Machines and Katie's character, and nobody really, at least that I know, nobody really complained. Everyone I know loved that movie. Nobody complained about that representation
yeah.
because the whole movie was just so good. So nobody cares then,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if this whole movie had been really good, I don't think, I mean, you would have had the true homophobes, but I think that it gets kind of focused on because people are like defensive over the fact that people don't think it's good
Yeah.
on both sides,
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
so
really well said. But again, I just felt like this ultimately for me was like this environmental fable
yeah,
that just
because it doesn't make sense that
fell
the
flat.
Pando wouldn't have some negative. Like I would think that if it was really this toxic, that they would be experiencing some kind of effects from eating it, using it, everything. But you don't really see any of that.
Nope.
No, I mean
You
they.
don't.
Yeah, you would think that they would be maybe like, I don't know, they have like the fish in the Simpsons power plant, with three eyes and stuff like that, or something. There was some negative. It was really
Right.
this
It was like,
damaging.
and maybe because they just handle it so fast, it was just like, Callista shows up and is like, oh my gosh, these plants from the north are ill. We're going to the middle of it. We're going to try to find the root system in the middle of
Yeah,
the earth. And
and I guess they have the dog with three legs. I don't know if that's associated with the Pando.
yeah, I don't
Can't
know, or if it
remember.
was just I don't know. I don't know either.
Yeah, but they pretty quickly on find the root cluster of the Pando. They think it's being attacked, but in truth, it's actually a parasite.
Yep, that's
And
attacking their life form that they're living on.
yeah, and there's just more fighting between Jaeger and Searcher and Ethan.
Yeah, just fight, fight, fight.
And then between Searcher and Ethan, they fly around. This is when they find the giant eye.
Yeah, they actually go through to the other side of this
Yeah.
mountain range that they are living, and then it's like I don't know, and yeah,
And the way they
I,
set it up, it's really like it's supposed to be this unbelievable moment. Like
right,
it's literally like it starts out just sort of the dark pupil, and then it pans back, and and then this music, oh yeah, and you're supposed to just be like,
and it doesn't
no,
happen.
it does not. It fizzles so bad, and
Yeah, that was such a dud. The way that, you know,
Yeah.
because really we don't really completely know where I mean, they were in some kind of creature that's living on a big planet, right? Because at the very end, there's that final kind of pan out
Yeah.
shot that reveals like, oh well, that looks like a
Yeah.
turtle
I felt like
in an ocean.
it's supposed to be this like the 2001 A Space Odyssey, like panning
Yeah.
up from the monkey throwing the bone, it's like, whoa.
It was so underwhelming, and I almost wish that shot or something even maybe just more detailed and not so far that went so far back happened at that eye reveal. You
Yeah.
know that I mean we figured it out just instantly when the eye, but also just like what it was almost more confusing than it was
Yeah.
interesting. I
It
was,
was.
and in my brain, I was just thinking, "Oh, look, it's the heart of Tafiti or whatever." That they were gonna,
That's true. Oh my gosh.
which would have been better.
Yeah. And like I said, the best part of the movie, aside from the very intro, was when they're all locked in the closet.
Yeah, that was a great scene when they're just kind of working together to get out, and the humor's good. This with the
And
dog and
Legend helps them
Splat, and
out.
yeah.
I wrote down the best part of the movie was when they're all locked in a closet. That shouldn't be the case in an adventure story.
Well said, Rach. Well
They
said.
figure out that this root cluster is the heart. It's beating, beat, 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 beat. And then then you get that pan out of like, oh, it's a turtle. And
Wherever
then
they are, they're on the back of some giant turtle.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the hardest things is when you have an enemies to lovers story, which is like a family version of that. They start out kind of hating each other and they're supposed to end kind of in a better place. You have to know when to switch it, right? And
Yeah.
if you wait too long, the audience is going to hate your characters. You've seen this in many rom-coms that wait too long to change the characters and from fighting and being enemies, right? You have to switch it to now all of a sudden now they're interested in each other. They're growing, the tension is growing and they're getting more interested. And obviously this isn't a romance, but they waited too long. Like even towards this very end, they're still fighting with each other. Even Ethan is still fighting with Searcher, and Searcher is still fighting with Jaeger, and Jaeger with Ethan, and everybody. And the female characters are just kind of there to like fly the ship.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
barely do anything.
Yeah. I liked the mother character voiced by Gabrielle Union, but you're right. You know, she kind of acts as sometimes a bit of an intermediary, but she's more just like, you just fight it out, whatever.
Yeah.
She like she she didn't really care to like oh my gosh, I'm meeting my father-in-law. You know what I mean? There wasn't any of that. I didn't think either. She's just kind of just
Yeah,
indifferent.
there's just not a whole lot of character development on her part.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Which
So
is too bad. And then I thought that Callisto Mall, the Lucy Liu character, was an interesting idea. Because she had been on the expeditions with Jaeger Clade, right? Prior when she was younger, and then now she's mayor, but or whatever, president or whatever her role is. But yeah, underdeveloped, really underdeveloped.
mhm.
There could be a lot of interesting stuff about her. There was a moment, and you and I talked about this, but oh no, they're going to reveal that she's the villain,
Yes.
and like, ew,
Yeah.
I was so mad. I was like, are you kidding me? Are we going to get another one of these, villain reveals, in between the second or third act? Like, oh, please.
Yeah, that would have been so cringe. So
That
good
would have
job in
been,
avoiding that.
yeah, I'm so glad that didn't happen. But, ugh.
Yeah. So we find out, we get a 1 year later, an epilogue with Ethan is in a relationship with his crush from earlier. Diazo is the
And
name.
they're in the strange world. They're in the center of the
Hmm.
turtle
Hmm.
doing stuff, kind of cleaning up after the pando, and
Yeah.
and it's like, just kind of focusing on, like, yeah, exploration and doing, cool stuff down there.
And Pando has turned to wind turbines.
Yeah.
So evidently that's enough to run their civilization. They don't need
Well,
fossil fuels,
well,
evidently.
and then I guess sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, with some of the narration that they had to give up like their coffee makers and stuff in the houses because they weren't getting
Oh.
as much electricity. But I could be wrong on that, Rage.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad they can't find a way to grow the Pando, harvest it without, infecting, I guess it would go through the ground and cause problems. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're
And
not.
then Jaeger becomes a farmer with his son.
Mhm,
That's how he's living out this next chapter of his
mhm,
life. And that animation is kind of cute, as there, because again, the whole relationship, this, because I mean, the father son stuff resonated with me, Rach, because hello, I have a
mhm.
dad, right, and
Yeah,
I don't have any kids, but I have a parent, I have a father, and also I'm, close with my family, and understand, it's interesting to see like how my brother, was with his
mhm.
kids and all this stuff, and he's got grandkids now, and anyway, that that stuff resonated with me, but I totally hear what you're saying, because all it was fighting up until the very end.
I mean, I guess I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have been lucky to live in sort of a conflict light existence. That my parents never really fought around us, like very, very little. I mean, my brother and I fought a lot, but as far as my parents, or certainly my father, not much.
Yeah.
There's a few things when I was a teenager. I will admit that, but I don't know. I just feel like if you're gonna have this kind of bickering in certainly a family film, then you need to make it pay off and the relationship be great, and like all the feels, and I don't know, I just didn't
It
feel
wasn't
it didn't
there.
come together for me.
Hmm.
And I said in my review, which I'll put a link in, just said, I know animated films are hard to make and that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this film. But in the era of Into the Spider-Verse and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, you have to do better. It's no surprise Strange World received the lowest cinema score of any Disney film ever. It's not interesting or enchanting, and the characters bickering the whole time makes for a thoroughly unpleasant experience. I said, if you want my advice, wait for Puss in Boots: Last Wish and watch
Yeah.
this on Disney Plus, or just watch Encanto for the 30th time with your family. This is
Right.
certainly,
Because Encanto is
yeah,
far superior film.
yes,
That's basically what I tell my family too. Is just like, if you really want to see it, watch on Disney Plus. But
mhm. Yeah. And I
when it comes
said,
out, and that's not helping the box office. But like, why should they spend all that money on this film, which sadly is just not very
mhm.
good?
And I said about the representation, I said the LGBTQ representation is better executed than any previous Disney film, and I appreciate it being well done. However, the movie still has to be good around that representation, and this just isn't.
Yeah, well said.
That's what I said. So I did put out a quick Twitter for
Oh, you did.
yeah, I don't know how much because I kind of forgot, but I did.
So
We just got one response, but it's a good one. So from our friend Kyle, he says it's a fun B flick throwback adventure with really cool art direction, score, and world building, paced like a Bugatti and edited as if someone diced it. Wish it have allowed us to sink ourselves into that world atmosphere a little more, but overall enjoyed it. So we got a few more responses that I wanted to read since we did the recording. So here we go. Here is some of the followers' responses to Strange World. Scott Menzel says painfully mediocre and instantly forgettable. Sam Waters says visually ambitious and stylistically earnest. Strange World unfortunately falls apart in light of its unlikable characters, unfocused story, and painfully on the nose metaphors. Piecing it together, Pot says the dog ruled. It's fun, but nothing special. Lightyear wishes it was as good as this movie. Justin Bostonian says just finished. I had some problems, but I actually really, really liked it. And then Kyle Snape says, it's fine, but not much else. I enjoyed the message the film had about generational boundaries, and the world is pretty, I guess, but there's very little to write home about. The first Disney film in a while that I have very little to say about. Not bad, just very nothing. And then Eric Samtal gave it a B minus. So some of the thoughts on the Twitter feed.
You know, my one of well, I went with a friend to see it who, other than knowing that it was from Walt Disney Animation Studios, he didn't know, what
Uh-huh.
what it was, and he quite enjoyed it. Just
Uh-huh.
just for what it was, just a fun adventure flick, and enjoy the animation and whatnot. And he definitely didn't have the issues with the story, like the script that I that I did. But I guess in a way I can see his point too. That for him coming into a cult, just it was a pleasant. And then I think though, because the animation was so beautiful, that was also
Sure, yeah.
part of the reason why you know
Well, and
why he enjoyed it. But
it's a different, not that critics can't enjoy, just sit back and enjoy a movie. I do that all the time.
of course,
But it is a different experience when you're trying to critique something and
well,
trying to figure out, okay, how do I feel about this? Should I recommend it to other people? It's
absolutely,
a different experience, and sometimes it can make you just it makes you realize some of the flaws of things that you might not realize
yeah.
if you were just like hanging out.
Well, no, see, exactly. And I think too, for me, given my devotion to the studio,
Hmm.
my expectations particular are I think are particularly high going into any one of these
Yeah,
films. And it's hard for me, even if I didn't know much about it. Like I didn't get to see the Roy Conley presentation or whatever.
right.
I still think my expectations would have been really high, and just could continue to be disappointed with the cruddy marketing, and then also disappointed that the film wasn't better.
Well, and one last thing I wanted to bring up. Somebody on Twitter was saying that with this movie, it is clear the revival era is over. And we've talked about this a ton in our ranking episodes and other things about the different eras. But I kind of agree. I feel like, I mean, there's a side of me that thinks, like you've said a bunch of times, that was really with Raya was the beginning of the post revival era. And I'm feeling that at the very least because I don't know, I just think this sort of Jennifer Lee era is kind of a new era. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree because in my opinion, is that the Jennifer Lee era started with Raya, but
Right.
I and this just is, I think, just one of those films that happens to not be very good
Yeah.
because I think Raya is even a much better
Oh,
film than
like
this.
Raya had some story problems, but
Raya has flaws,
yeah,
no question.
it has story problems. It should have been a musical. but 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 it has really good action. The animation's wonderful, and there is a lot of heart. It definitely has its heart in the right place,
hmm
and I felt way more attached to all of those characters
All those
than
characters,
I
and there were
felt.
a lot of
Yeah.
characters. There's a lot going on in that movie, and I did the same. Felt a lot more invested with all those characters and the story. Yeah, than I did in this one. But and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the film Wish next year. Now, you got to see some of this at D23, which I didn't, but I've seen a
Yeah.
little bit of the stuff that's been
I do
published
have to
about
say
it.
that so they had this trailer that was so self-congratulatory, so like about like I don't know about the Walt Disney Animated Studios. I mean, it's what else are you going to say without a D23? Everybody's going to go crazy,
Right.
and that it was all like accumulating into this star that this character was going to be wishing on, and it was going to have all of the princesses and princes of Disney past all accumulating into the star and the wishing star and I don't know. It was pretty cringe. I'm not gonna lie, but the animation looked beautiful, and then to have Ariana DeBose like show up
Right.
and sing was pretty amazing.
That's
And
amazing.
it was obviously just concept animation, but still, it looked pretty cool. And so, I'll always be excited for a Disney animated
Me too. I used
film,
to say I will
especially a
always be
musical.
excited and always have high expectations. Yeah, and I'm hoping that Wish is going to be good.
I do too, and I think the song was really good. The song was beautiful, and I forget who they said did the music is doing the music, but yeah, I will always look forward to. I mean, pretty much we'll look forward to any animated musical, but
Yeah.
especially one from Disney. So yeah, this
So
one is a bummer.
yeah,
It is one I could kind of see having a cult following. People say no, it's very underrated or whatever, but that won't be me.
yeah,
It's the other
yeah.
people.
Rachel, I've got a couple more things just to
Yes,
run past you while we're talking about this. I hope that's okay.
sure.
First off, I'm thinking about in 1990 when 1989 the Little Mermaid killed it, right? Just
Right,
like
right, right.
blew us all away.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1990, I was one of the handful of people who went and saw The Rescuers Down Under
Right,
because that was a instant fail too.
right.
It tanked on opening weekend. I can't remember how much it did,
Gave
but
up on it right away. And like I said, Disney does this all the
yeah.
time.
And the
So
studio
weird.
completely gave up on it and said, no marketing, no anything. We're done. We're moving on. And then Beauty and the Beast comes out, right? And then Aladdin. I mean, so I wonder if this, if Strange World is maybe kind of the Rescuers Down Under of our current time period, that maybe Disney's going to come back with Wish and they're just going to hit it out of the park
Yeah.
again.
I mean, you
Or
hope so with the new leadership that's putting things back in the hand of creatives, which is where it should be.
yeah,
Making it's interesting because whenever they seem to take decision making out of the hands of the
I
creatives,
know.
it seems like the the everything just becomes worse. Like you
Yeah,
would think that creatives that you would think that if they were like really trying to be super budget conscious and taking things out of the hand of the creatives, then they wouldn't make movies that lose like millions and millions of dollars.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
you know,
exactly.
but yeah, it's the
And
same way with Atlantis and with. I mean, but
yeah,
I would rather watch Atlantis than this.
oh, I'd
Atlantis
watch.
has its flaws, but at least it's fun.
Yeah, Atlantis is totally imperfect, but there's so much to like. I think
Hmm.
about it too. It's really, really an interesting film with a lot of interesting ideas. Where this one is just like they've gone inside some kind of a living being. You know
Yeah,
that now what?
it was just like
Uh, is it's just yeah. It's. Do you think too though? So the last question is that do you think that Disney or Walt Disney Animation Studios are now that Bob Chapek's out of the way, or do you think there's going to be some kind of any kind of changes? Like are they going to change their slate or change upcoming stuff because this film is done so poorly?
well, I wouldn't be at all surprised if some of the things announced don't. I can't think of an exact one, but I'm sure there will be projects that won't be pushed forward. And then
Mm-hmm.
other ones that they'll either new ones or ones that had been shelved previously will then be reinvigorated, both on the parks and on the film side. There is not a doubt in my mind that we are going to see a lot less on Disney Plus, and that's going to be more of a catalog service as opposed to a new
Yeah,
service. I mean, we'll still get some, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's never made sense to me. I mean, if you think about it, that on Disney Plus, people are paying what, like $11 a month or something. I don't know.
yeah, whatever the
I pay
latest.
yearly, so I don't know.
Yeah, I pay yearly too, so I'm not sure what the monthly, the standard
Something
monthly
like
fee
that.
is.
And that to go for one ticket to a film is going to be sometimes double that to see. You might pay $20 to
Yeah,
see a film, depending on where you live and whether you go to matinee or whatever. And so they are making, even for flops, you think of how, and that's a whole month that they have to sell and provide content for. And so it just doesn't make sense. I mean, that's why Netflix has this huge debt, because they have projects like The Crown, $100 million, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they have to get so many people to subscribe
To
in order for it to
subscribe
be
in order to,
profitable.
yeah, to be profitable. Yep.
And in the last quarter, I was reading that Disney Plus streaming lost like $1.5 billion. There was this Wall Street Journal article. So the I mean, I think all of the stuff was part of it for Chapek, but the main reason he lost his job is because that fourth quarter, in my opinion,
Yeah.
from everything I've seen, the fourth quarter earnings call was so bad that somebody had to pay the price, and he was the
Yeah.
one.
He
And
was the one.
as soon as, of course, they hire Bob Iger, the stock clips back up again, which is what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see how in the future, and I don't see how it would make any sense to be putting Disenchanted, putting Hocus Pocus 2, things like that onto Disney Plus. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Well, I guess I have one more question about this then, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that because of how Disney's put, the last three Pixar movies or prior to Lightyear,
Yeah.
straight to Disney Plus, Encanto really didn't become a hit until it made it
Until
to
Disney
Disney
Plus.
Plus?
That's a good point.
Do you think that are Disney fans now conditioned just to wait, for it to get put on to Disney Plus
Yeah.
in order to watch it rather than going to the theater?
It's true. It's a tricky thing. I don't know what I would do. Because I mean, you think about Netflix, they have this Glass Onion that probably would have made $350 million if they'd
If they
put
had put
it
it in the
for
theater.
a extended,
Yep.
And done a real like publicity push and everything.
Yep.
Is it going to really make them new subscribers? I mean, for how much they had to pay for it. Is it really
Yeah.
gonna make $350 million domestic for them? I find that hard to believe. I don't know. The whole model just doesn't make any sense to me. But you're
Yeah,
right.
it's
Like people
confusing.
have now become acclimated, conditioned to it. So, so you have to have something that's like super buzzworthy, like Top Gun Maverick, or
Yeah.
that, or just spend less money on your properties. So something like, say, Smile. There was a little horror movie, Smile, that stayed in the top 5 forever and
For
made a
weeks.
ton of money. And I don't know what the budget is, but
It wasn't like
probably,
8 million or
yeah, probably
something.
something like
It
that.
was like low.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I could be
and
wrong, but it seemed like it was
yeah,
low.
yeah. So I think it's, I don't know. It's a tricky, I don't envy Bob Iger his job.
I don't either. He's got a challenge, and
It's
one of
tough.
the big challenges I think too is repairing relationships internally, because everything that I think we've
Yeah.
talked about, it's everything we read, like Pixar, they're ticked,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
they were forced to put their films out on on Disney Plus with no theatrical run, but
Mhm.
then Lightyear showed up and it fizzled
Mhm.
too, and
Yeah.
I think that was probably a combination of people were confused by the concept,
Yeah.
and also the film was just kind of ho hum. I mean, it
It
wasn't
was a
terrible, but it wasn't great.
it was a weird idea. I
And
don't know.
and
Yeah.
but still, though, was that the same thing? Like people were just we're all just gonna wait and watch it
Mhm.
on Disney Plus. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's a tricky. I mean, and now I feel like they've stretched their Marvel goodwill to its breaking point with 3. I mean, I think Black Panther, Wakanda Forever was pretty well received.
Yeah, and it
Then
seems to be
2 that
doing pretty
were
well, right? I
more
think its box office is pretty solid.
more divisive. And I hung around with Marvel for a long time, and then finally this year, I just couldn't keep up with all the shows. It was too much. I watched like 2 episodes of Moon Knight. I watched 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. I just couldn't watch it all. I was just too busy. And I think a lot of
Yeah,
people are feeling that way. Like it used to be pretty easy to like keep up with, a couple movies a year, and then the beginning, because of the pandemic, you could watch the series, but there was just so much Marvel content this year that unless you were like hardcore,
yeah.
I think it's pretty tough. So,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
that's a
I
problem.
didn't even try.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't even
mean,
try.
and you're hardcore. Like
Yeah.
I I was a big, MCU fan, and I just couldn't do it. I just don't have time. I never watched
Yes.
She-Hulk, and it's just the whole experience is so unpleasant of talking about it that it's not worth it anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So they're kind of on a weird spot, I think, even with their most reliable and consistent franchise with Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And the parks are in a weird spot. Everybody's upset about the raising of prices,
Yeah, the
lack
horrible
of
prices increases, and then also the taking away or the charging of services that used to be included,
mhm, and the
and
lack of passes. That they only
yeah,
have the Magic Keys thing seems like a big flop. And I mean, last time I went for D23, and I was there at Disneyland for like 4 days. Yeah, I had a good time, and because I really enjoy the park, but there were a lot of things that I noticed, like, ooh, like the fact that I paid $10 for the smallest cup of chili imaginable.
and that it sucked
It
too,
was, I
right?
mean, it was fine, but it was so small. Like, I don't even know if it was a full cup. It was so small. $10. I couldn't believe it. I
Wow.
mean, because like the Disney food's always been expensive, but I always felt like it was reasonable, and that was just outrageous to me. Like
Yeah.
it was expensive for an amusement park, right? But this was just, I mean, and then I went to the Chinese food place, and I spent like $30 for this tiny little plate of food. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just they have a lot of
They got a
problems.
lot to do. I do not envy Bob Iger. He
No.
has got a huge task in front of him, not to mention trying to find his, new successor.
Mhm.
But, I wish him happy, and I hope I really hope that he can ride the ship.
Yeah.
I really hope he can ride the
I
ship.
mean, because the world of entertainment is better with a thriving Disney. Even if
Absolutely.
people don't like Disney, have jaded views on Disney,
Yeah.
you have to acknowledge that if they're making quality, that's going to encourage everyone else to make quality.
Yeah.
It's going to, if their parks are quality, it's going to encourage everyone else to be quality. And they're just too big to want to fail. They
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
agreed.
interesting.
Interesting stuff to think about, and all just kind of really encapsulated with Strange World. Strange World, I feel is just kind of a product of a dysfunctional Disney. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
So I was thinking, and we haven't really even talked about this, but I was thinking for our next episode, so this will be in January. I was thinking of that. I was thinking that we could do Enchanted for
Yeah, it'd be fun.
January.
Absolutely, because I watched Disenchanted, but I haven't seen Enchanted in quite a while.
Yeah.
So that I think would be really, really fun.
Yeah. That'll be fun. So let us know what you think if you're listening. I know this is a long episode, so if you
Just
want
to
to
say
put
there was
in,
a lot to talk
there's
about.
a lot. Put in the comments section if you listen to this whole thing. Put in, what can we do? Hashtag Strange World Rachel and Stan. If you really long. But
Perfect.
anyway, put that in. Then we'll know that you listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
but but yeah, let us know what you think of this movie. What do you think of the things that we talked about, both as far as Disney Studios in general, but then also the movie itself. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. You can find us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And Stanford, where can people find you?
I'm still on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and also I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Yeah, we survived the Twitter apocalypse.
I know, right? We'll see what's yet to come.
But you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, you can find me at Hallmarkies Podcast. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is a lot of fun and the best way that you can help support what we do. And we also have the merch store. You can hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. Hope you have a great December. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.